Today, you're going to learn how to co create your reality with something that's been right in front of you, your nose, your sense of smell. You're about to meet a quantum physicist who specializes in machine olfaction, or SniffTech. He's one of the most deeply curious people I know. And in fact, he shared a story that when he was growing up, his teacher told his father that he would never learn anything because he asked too many questions. Well, I'm glad that he kept asking questions because he's one of the most deeply curious people I know, and his research has led to groundbreaking insights and technologies. Andreas Mershin has spent 22 years at MIT and is now the chief science officer at RealNose, using sniff tech to diagnose disease. He's also the author of Perceptual Engineering, the co-author of How Olfaction and Other Senses Create Reality. Welcome to Soul Toll, Andreas.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. What made you join us today?
Well, I want to talk about this book and the effort that went into it, and I'm hoping to give a message of hope to everyone.
Okay, beautiful.
I think the future is bright despite everything and everything that's going on in the world in the media. There's so much great stuff happening in the world of science, in the world of perceptual engineering, and I think it's a breath of fresh air for everybody.
Wonderful. So, for people who are listening and want to spend the next, 30 minutes with us here, what value could they take from our conversation today, from what you're about to share and teach? What could change in their life?
I think once you understand that you are not placed in this world, but you're actively creating it as you go, and that all your thoughts that are causing your emotions, that are causing your behaviors, are under your control. Once you realize that, your life changes.
How?
You go from being an actor that's told what to do and how to be to being a director. And it's a different kind of experience. I don't want to cast it in terms of better or worse. An actor can have a good time and a director can have a good time. But to know that you can do both and to choose which one you want to be at any one given moment is power. Sometimes you want to follow, sometimes you want to lead. And to have that option is power. And that relaxes you. That lets you know that at any moment you can just take control back of whatever situation it is that you might not prefer to be in. Um, Understanding that and believing in it is difficult because maybe when you're very young, you know this, but then over time, school and parents and everybody really is trying to make sure that you don't know this because you're much easier to manipulate if you have to obey at all times.
Absolutely.
And the book was written not to address a specific audience, but mostly because I had to put these things out. They were bugging me in my head and they had to be kind of exorcised almost. And in putting it into words and connecting it to images, I think we created something quite unique with my co-author, Professor Chris Rose. This book isn't a linear book. You don't read it from beginning to end. You can dive into it at any moment, at any page, and it will make sense. It's a little bit like a TikTok. We thought everybody's doing this with their phone, and myself included. Yeah, a quick hit. So I started carrying this book around, and for a quick hit out of my own book, I know it sounds weird, but I have a co-author, so I sometimes land on his pages, and it's fresh. You just open it randomly, and you get a little snippet, and I think it gives, at least me and the people who have read it, it gives them a little sense of, oh, wait a minute, yes, I remember. I can also, I may be
Choose
stressed right now.
differently.
I can choose differently, and it's not so much in your face like a TikTok is. It's gives you the control. You can open it, close it, go whatever. It's not, it's not like force feeding you anything. And we paid maximal attention to use imagery that's evocative without explaining it.
Okay.
So there's images that you land on and you don't know why that image is there, but then it kind of drives you into all kinds of interesting innovations that your own mind brings.
Okay.
So like a good piece of art, it doesn't over-explain itself and allows you to have a moment with it.
I love that you have a scientific book that you describe as a good piece of art.
That's what we're after.
Together, yeah.
I don't think they're different. The experience of doing good science is not different than the experience of doing good art. In both cases, you're looking for truth. You're looking for expression. You're looking for innovation on how to achieve truth and expression. And if you're doing it at the level of where you're fully involved, I don't know that it really matters. The outcome might look different. The artist's outcome might be consumed by different people, might be exhibited in galleries instead of journals or whatever, but the involvement with which a proper artist does it and the proper scientist does it is the same. I mean, I think the experience must feel very similar.
So, this book is going to give us power and teach us how to relax in our lives while also gaining more control over it. Those sound like almost competing statements. Can you tell us how that happens and what the kind of overarching teachings of the book are?
Well, that's exactly it. Why do you think control and relaxation are opposites? Do you see a big general who is in control of a giant army? Do you think one who is stressed out and like this more effective than one who's calm and lethal?
Calm and lethal sounds more effective.
So being stressed out and being in control are opposites. To be in control is to be calm.
Mm, I don't know that a lot of people understand that. How did you come to that understanding?
I don't have to explain. Think about it. Ask any kid. Who would you trust? The person who's agitated and fretting about, or the person who's calm and in control? Is James Bond ever agitated?
Fair enough. So how do you get to that state? Tell me some of the kind of tactics that you talk about in your book.
Well, there's many. I mean, the entire history of civilization is exactly about this. All religions will give you tactics. Yoga will give you tactics. Exercise guru, martial arts, anything. The thing to say is that I'm not here to give you a prescription. Don't follow my breakfast rituals. Why? Who cares? Or anybody's. You can find what works for you. The trick is to understand that no matter what it is, if you get involved with it deeply, I don't care if it's silly. To you, it might not be silly. And if it's not silly to you and it allows you to get involved deeply, things, faculties open up, energies, brains that you didn't know you have. Uh, you'll start figuring things out. Things will start clicking. And for that to happen, it's not a ritual that I can prescribe to you other than follow what gets you into that state, more and more into the excitement state, whatever it is. You might be, I heard someone on Reddit that had like a whole treatise, maybe it was even a PhD thesis on silly straws.
Okay.
I can't think of a sillier thing to dedicate my life to, but if that person wrote a 40-page thesis on silly straws because they were into it, that's great. That's
Yeah.
even harder than to write about cancer because everybody cares about cancer. But to write deeply and with engagement about something that nobody cares about, that's an exercise. Try that.
Okay, so you did that with smell.
I did that with everything.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But with the sense of smell, like how did that stand out to you among the senses? Where did that conviction and excitement come from?
Right. So I fell into it. I did not start off as many other people in this field who are already into the foods and into the wines and into the cheeses. Yeah, I'm not a foodie, okay, and not that into all that stuff. I do cook, but that's not how I got into it, and not even the
You're going
fragrance.
there because that's kind of
A lot of
generally
people.
in culture where people think about smell.
That's right. People think about it from a standpoint of food, fragrance, detergents, all that stuff. So that's not where I was. I was on the quantum physics aspect of it, where we started seeing that many processes in biology, such as photosynthesis, magnetoreception, which is how birds can navigate, or some birds, and olfaction, perhaps, were connected to deeply quantum physical events or quantum physical phenomena. And 20, 30 years ago, that was very exotic. Now it's becoming more normal to talk about quantum biology, and that's my other big love that I'm into, trying to create quantum computers out of biological molecules. That's for a different podcast.
Find some of these areas for our listeners who might be new to these.
So, quantum biology brought me to olfaction. Olfaction is a sense of smell. Quantum biology talks about the ways that nature has figured out to use the same tricks as quantum physicists have used. And those tricks involve understanding how, at the very, very tiny scale, matter does really interesting and cool things, such as being in two places at once.
Okay.
The same object can be in two places at once until you check where it is. It's everywhere. Things like that happen. And you think, okay, well, what's all this? I mean, it sounds all like science fiction, all that. Well, it has been in our technologies for close to a century now. We have been understanding this and using things that come from quantum physics in lasers, in CD readers, in everything, in our telecommunications, everywhere. Quantum physics is a well used thing, but it's a poorly understood sort of philosophy as to what's going on at the very bottom level. And we always had this idea that was separate from biology, that biology would never touch this because in the laboratory, quantum effects usually get destroyed once they're exposed to ambient temperatures. You have to cool your system down, and it has to be very, very tiny, and you can't have any vibrations. As soon as you look at it funny, literally, it decoheres. That's the elimination of any quantum behaviors and back to classical normal, where things have to be at one place at the time. But once you realize that if it is possible at all for these effects to give you some advantage in the competition of life, then biology had a lot of time to figure it out. So biology has certainly figured it out how to use it in very basic and important processes such as photosynthesis. If biology hadn't figured that out, we wouldn't be here because there wouldn't be any plants to eat or for us to evolve. So the main idea is that quantum physics that used to be mysterious and relegated to the realm of laboratory only is becoming a reality with computers. Now we have quantum computers, but there might be a huge boon to it if we harness biology to create quantum computers, because it will no longer be necessary to create very low temperatures or have systems that are tiny or have systems that must be very well maintained against any kind of interaction, because biological organisms live in the real world. Plants photosynthesize all day long in ambient temperatures that can be hit with by wind and everything, and no problem.
Okay. And so how does this lead us to smell?
So when I was looking into all this, there was a researcher at MIT called Shuguang Zhang, and he was the only one back then that had 5 milligrams, which is a tiny quantity. It's literally a tiniest drop you've ever seen. You can barely see with your eyeballs, but he had enough of those olfactory receptors that we have in the human to actually start making machines with. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to use these proteins to see if we can get some quantum effects out of it and prove to the world, oh my God, olfaction is also another one of those quantum phenomena. On our way to do that, instead of doing that, what we did is we built what we think is the world's first actual bioelectronic nose that use the same receptors as humans do and beat the dog's limit of detection. And from that came this adage. Going in, we thought we knew how noses work. We thought we did read all the books, all the textbooks, all the papers that were relevant. We read them, we understood them, and we thought we understood noses. In building it, we understood that we knew nothing. And in building it, we actually started understanding how the noses work. So Richard Feynman, famous physicist, Nobel Prize winner, on the day he died, he left on his board a quote. He said, by himself, he said, "What I cannot create, I do not understand." So I took that quote and I flipped it. And I said, well, if you cannot understand something you cannot create, therefore, to understand it, you must create it. Therefore, the motto of the whole group at MIT, my group, became build it to understand it. And I think that's a great philosophy to follow. If you're going to follow any philosophy, which is probably not a great idea, but if you're going to follow something, follow this. Build it to understand it. It's not enough to just read about anything. You got to do it. And the ultimate doing is to build it.
Wait, why isn't it good to follow a philosophy?
Because there's so many, and how you know you found the right one, and which one is the right one for the right fit for the right moment.
Okay, but this one seemed important enough to frame.
This seems important enough that it's pithy enough and it's vague enough to be applicable.
Okay, got your stamp of approval.
Yeah,
well, that's great.
So we got into noses because we were looking at quantum physics events. Then we built a couple noses for DARPA, and then we realized, oh my God, these things are working on a different principle than what we thought going in. And in building it, we started understanding how olfaction organizes information, how the brain looks at this. And then we thought going in that, of course, olfaction is the one that's a mystery. We already understand vision. We already understand audition. It ended up being not the case. The way we understood olfaction started fitting back into vision and audition, saying, wait a minute, that's not how actually the other systems work either. Olfaction is thought to be the first one. Olfaction and gustation, which is the tongue.
Okay.
So when you were a single-celled organism, you were looking for food by going up trails of gradients of concentration, kind of like Hansel and Gretel, going up the... So you had to find where the food was to engulf it and eat it as a single-celled organism. You did this by having receptors similar to the ones we have now that would tell you where the stuff was to follow the gradient, just like the dog follows their nose now. As we became bipedal, for the humans, the nose became less interesting and less important. Our eyeballs, they look much further, and most of our stuff now is about the eyes. In fact, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we've basically been trained how to use our other senses, but not our sense of smell, given how we evolved.
Absolutely. Very few people actually get proper training. Biology is de-emphasizing smell in the human. As we keep evolving, smell maybe will come back as a big modality if we push it with technologies or culture. But over the millions, or over the hundreds of thousands of years that we have been going by, as we went bipedal, we are de-emphasizing our attention to the nose and emphasizing our attention to the eyes.
And what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. That's my evolution.
What's special about the nose?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So we spend 35 times more attention on eyes than nose, while the dog is the other way around. So the dog smells the world first, then they see it. There's nothing wrong with we're doing exactly what evolution is meant for us to do. We're walking upright. We're paying a lot of attention to our eyes. But the smell being the first one to evolve out of all the senses is the most closely and intimately connected to your memory.
Okay.
So you can use smells to activate things and bypass your sort of conscious thinking brain. So a lot of effort goes into how do I stop thinking, or how do I change my track of thinking because I've gotten into a negative pattern.
Okay.
And there's great evidence that even in the most severe cases of that, which causing people to have fugue states, for instance, a soldier with PTSD that would be triggered by any mention of the word or image of meat, it was figured out that if you can train a dog, which they did for him, to recognize when he's about to enter this fugue state, which is a very destructive state where a person loses connection with reality and they start acting out non-verbally. Sometimes they would run away, lose their clothes. You have to go find them in the woods. It's a brutal condition to be. You can't live a normal life, and you're always depending on other people to help you. However, it was found out that a dog could predict an episode from as it was coming in, alert the owner, and then this veteran would then sniff an essential oil, bypassing all the buildup of thought that was reminding him of the reason that he was being triggered because he had been in battle and he had seen human flesh been burned. So the vision, the visuals, or the smells of it would trigger him immensely. But even the mentions of it would trigger him. Even the word meat written on an ad would trigger him. There would be some time between the triggering event and the actual behavior. So in that time, it was possible to intervene with a technology which is called a dog.
Yeah.
But the technology is currently buried inside of the dog's
Right. Let
packaging.
me repeat this back to make sure that I'm tracking. So, someone who had PTSD was triggered by meat, correct?
Any mention of it.
Any mention of meat. And so it's very hard to walk through the world that way. And the challenge was especially that he might approach meat, but not know that he was approaching it because he didn't have the power, the sense of smell that a dog had. So he had a dog.
No, not quite.
him.
So the
Okay.
dog was sniffing his body.
Oh,
So,
he got the
yes,
emotions
the emotions of him.
of him.
Yes. So let's say this actually,
Okay.
he explained this story to me. He says there was one time that he was in his house and a truck passed by outside on the window and it had some kind of mention of meat on it. Maybe, I don't remember if it was a picture or maybe the word or something. And 20 minutes later, the episode came for him.
Okay.
If he had the dog would know that his body is about to get triggered into an episode.
Because our body is emitting all of
Exactly,
this. And so the
yes.
dog could smell on him that
Yes.
he was about to have this experience before he could even be consciously aware that he was going to be put
And
into
there's
this
no
state.
technology currently that can do this. Now, the same thing can be done with dogs for diabetic shock oncoming and for epileptic seizure oncoming. No technology is currently for the diabetic. We have glucose meters and things like this, but they're invasive, and they might break, and then they need maintenance, etc. The dogs that do this, that are trained to alert you for a diabetic shock, there's a video, you should go look at it, from medical detection dogs in the UK who are our partners. They have a lady who is about to go into a diabetic coma. The dog alerts from a different room, comes up, licks her, she wakes up, takes her insulin, goes back to sleep. Her husband doesn't have to wake up next to a dead body. That's an incredible feat by the dog. And my question is, great for the dog, excellent for everybody who has a dog, who is a dog that's trained. But what about the rest of us? Not everybody can have a dog.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Shouldn't this be in a smartphone by now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is from your book, Scent Aura. Is that the right term?
Yeah, you can call it that. You're
Okay.
leaving behind a scent aura everywhere you walk. It's different than your visual or your visual or your audio, because unlike the light and sound that disappear once they hit receptors, your light doesn't stay in the room, your voice goes away unless it's been recorded. Smell lingers, and you're leaving behind a trail of it, and it mixes in with other people. And it's a challenge. It's not as easy to take a picture of a smell as it is to take a picture of an object with light, because wind is maximally important. So imagine this. One of the big challenges we have is if a source of smell is here and the wind is the back of your head, you won't see it. If you rotate, you'll see it maximally. So the wind affects how smells travel. But think about almost all organisms I can think of have a sense of smell. And we always have this cluster collocated: vision, smell, audition, taste, all together. And this cluster here helps us navigate the world.
Yeah. And so we're talking about this in two ways. In one, your sense of smell and you co-creating reality and it going straight to your memory and emotion and feeling, which I think everyone has that experience where they've smelled something and are shot back to a childhood memory and they're trying to find it in their mind. And then there's kind of the scent aura aspect of this as well, which is what you do with machine olfaction and working with dogs to diagnose disease, to help people with PTSD, to do all of this other amazing work. So how does that all kind of come together from your book, or in everyday life? Like, how do you use your sense of smell as your superpower?
Okay. So there's a couple of questions in there. Uh, to use my sense as a superpower, I couple it to curiosity. So the human brain is made in such a way that you cannot experience fear and curiosity about the same thing at the same time. It's impossible.
That's
So
my takeaway. That's what
yeah,
I'm
you should
writing
do it. So
down.
curiosity is the anti-fear.
Okay.
So if you're afraid of anything, I don't care if it's diving from a 10-meter board into the water, or spiders, or death, or your boss, whatever it is you're afraid of.
Your boss.
It might be.
It might
So a
be.
lot of people are. I can think of a lot of people right now. Um, whatever it is you're afraid of, if you manage to start asking questions about it, it will go away. The fear will go away. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
And it took me decades to understand this, by the way. And this is what actually caused this book to exist. The book exists because me and my co-author, Chris Rose, professor of RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, we would go up and do lectures together, and we had half of our material planned, and the rest of it was kind of like a jazz duo. He's the artist designer, I'm the scientist, and we'd throw things at each other, put something on the for a visual reference, and then kind of riff off of what the other guy is saying live.
Okay.
And this seemed to be really engaging to the audience. They loved it, and there was tons of questions. And usually we'd do like 10, 15 minutes, and there'd be an hour of people talking about it afterwards. So we did a few of those. They went well, so we made them into a book. But the first story we did ever was this about memory, about curiosity being the anti-fear. And it goes like this. I was a grad student in Texas A&M University. It was summer, and I was riding my motorcycle to go teach probably, or take classes, I don't remember, but I was going slow, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 miles an hour. No gloves, no helmet back then. Okay. I was young and foolish, and also it was legal in Texas to not have that. And as I'm riding on the highway, a big hairy tarantula starts climbing on my right hand. Now,
Real story.
real story, and I am an arachnophobe, okay? I would see a small spider and freeze and have sweats and all this stuff. But here the stakes were high. And for this, as soon as I see it, everything, like you can imagine, is
Yeah.
going bad. But I'm on the motorcycle, and so many thoughts are coming. And the first thought is like, okay, if you now freak out, this is going to be very painful, expensive, and embarrassing,
Mhm.
potentially lethal. I don't know if I thought that at that moment,
Choose your poison.
but all that. And then somehow it got triggered in me to start asking questions automatically. I didn't do it. And the first question was like, well, how did it get there? It wasn't there last night. And then, and how is it holding on against the wind? There's some wind, and it hasn't bitten me yet. So, okay, all right. So with this, I slowed my panic down,
Mhm.
and I had enough wherewithal because of the curiosity, because it stopped the panic. Because as soon as I started being curious about this, animal that found its little self being next to me, the panic subsided. And I remember it very clearly because I was in my head, it was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to crash this motorcycle now. It's going to be horrific. There's cars behind me, and it didn't happen. So I got it off me, and I threw it out, and I calmed down. And it took me years to understand what happened. And then when I finally figured it out, we did a little lecture about it, and there's the book. There's many other things in there like that.
It's fascinating because fear is disengaging with the world, whereas curiosity is then re-engaging and co-creating with the world.
Well, when you disengage, you get into that the limit. If you take the disengagement to its natural conclusion, where do you get to? You get to the fugue state. That's maximal disengagement. You're out. You're no longer, the body's like out being its animal, being its animal form. One way to think about the world, not the only one, but is that you are the thing that rides inside the body, or you own the body. It's like your horse. And if the body starts experiencing really bad stuff, yes, you disconnect. You don't want to feel all the pain. Extreme pain can actually knock you out, and all these things. Well, so disconnection, which people do by anesthetizing themselves with drugs or TV or other things, if you take it to the limit, it will lead you to fugue state. That means you will be somewhere else, and your body will be animalistic. The other way, curiosity, is the exact opposite of that. It brings you into maximal engagement. And it reminds you that you are the director. You're experiencing your own life, and you get to make sense of whatever is happening. Now, it's extremely difficult to get into that state if somebody's poking you with a knife.
Well, yes.
And for good reason, because that state is calm. And sometimes you just need to fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you're a calm fighter, you're a much more effective fighter. people take training to do this, to become calm in
I
stressful
learned this
situations.
in Tai Chi, yes.
Yeah, every martial art will tell you that, you can't be panicking in the thing. I don't want people to think that life is always about conflict and fighting, but being calm in any situation is great. Unless you want to not be calm, you need to have the option. You want to dance around, you want to be nuts, fine. You should have a switch and be able to flip that. But it needs to be under your control.
Well, so how can we use our superpower of sense to flip that switch and have it be under our control to get into those different states?
So scent being the thing that you haven't really used, most people, even me, will allow you to access curiosity via novelty because it's new for you. So you start getting into scent, you start associating a state that you like with a particular smell. And I'm not advocating for any brand or any essential
I've had
fragrance,
so many essential people approach me, so I want to know what to
use
tell
whatever
them.
it is that you want. But if you find a smell that is novel, that you have not seen before, it will trigger curiosity, whether you like it or not. It's like, a feather will trigger the giggles. It'll make you, well, a new smell will trigger curiosity. That's what the brain will do. Once you're in the curious state, you're basically in a superpower state. So you have to be conscious about it. You find yourself in a great state that you want to reproduce, smell that thing that you will then cap. You will not smell it all day long. It has to be new. It has to be novel. It has to keep it.
How do you do that though in real life?
Well, you can change after it's fizzled out. You change. People do this with antidepressants.
No, I mean though, how do you? So like this moment right here, I want to capture it. I don't know what to smell. What do I smell to capture this exact moment? Do you know what I mean?
Do you have an orange or something? You have a fruit?
Okay, fruit. Okay, so something like that.
Take an orange, scratch it a little bit. If you have you want to smell my perfume?
All right, now
it's Fahrenheit.
Now it's captured.
So next time you smell Fahrenheit,
that could work.
You can have your own little package or whatever, like that person was carrying a smell that would stop his mind from going there. Now, it has to be something that you're doing consciously. Basically, it's all about conscious control. So the smell will bring you back into your conscious control. You bind it into whatever. I have a certain, don't follow my rules because this is not rules. I'm learning it. There's people who are much better than me at this. Okay, people who are into fragrance and they have a whole existence that, some people are very good at fashion. They modulate their mood with their clothing. You see yourself looking good in the mirror, that's a boost. You find yourself looking good in the mirror, you take a sniff of something, you keep it. Then next time you're down, you want to go back to that state, take a sniff of that thing. It's a memory anchor that you can use anytime. It's super easy. It doesn't matter what it is. It has to be novel. It's not something that you should be smelling all day long because you'll habituate. You'll eventually lose the novelty for it.
And is there a connection to that with co-creating our reality?
This is it. When you are calm, when you are in control, you are co-creating reality. You can feel that you're co-creating. You're co-creating all the time. If somebody is outside there having a panic attack or being on drugs and having a really bad time and screeching and shouting and threatening and whatnot, even though all the demons that they see are not real for us, that will affect us. That isn't something you can just block out easily. So
even if we don't hear it, if we don't know it,
if you don't hear none of that, then I think you don't affect it. However, I'll tell you this about olfaction that people will definitely resonate with. Fear has a smell, and it's actually detectable. Not only dogs can tell if you're afraid or anxious, but other humans. Stress is contagious via smell. If you're sitting in a cubicle and somebody behind you in a different cubicle who you cannot see or hear is constantly stressed out, you will start getting stressed out because the smell wafts over. Now, people say, well, I can't smell anything. I'm not conscious of it. It's true. It's very difficult to smell it on someone unless they're, truly flop sweating, freaking out, having a horrible time. But here's how you might remember it. If you've taken classes in a college or high school, when you go into a class where people just come out, it doesn't smell great. But if those people were taking an exam, it smells horrible. That's the smell of concentrated fear. Yes, it's the smell of stress concentrated. It's this acrid kind of, it's got a little bit of sweat in it, but it's not the smell of sweat. It's a different kind of sweat. It's a sweat that's in fact,
you almost want to carry something around to create a barrier to those kinds of
You could even do it on the fly. If you are finding yourself to be extremely agitated and you don't have something to smell, find anything with a smell and focus your attention on the nose because that gets you back to basics. It's like, okay, what's happening? Oh, we're alive. Oh, that's good. That's a good thing. The rest doesn't really matter right now. So it gets you back to that very quickly. The trick is, like with all of these, it doesn't even have to be, if you're good enough at this kind of return to baseline, you can do it with just consciously. My thing is that by the time you tell this to people and they start carrying this around, they will have already be able to do it without it. But for those who need a little bit, or maybe just for the training, carrying it or finding something in nature, take any leaf. Well, I shouldn't say that because some leaves are poisonous. If you know what it is, it's a lemon tree leaf. If you break that in your hand and you smell it, it's an amazing smell. It will send you to billions of years ago, to when you were a single-celled organism. It kind of connects you. I'll tell you another way that you can be connected by smell. And I didn't bring this here, but it wouldn't work on a current podcast. Maybe in the future we'll be able to transmit smell as well. We have some ideas about that. But there is this molecule that is emitted by the human egg. And the sperm is looking for that molecule and it's navigating towards it up a concentration gradient. That molecule has been isolated, and you can make it synthetically, you can purify it, etc. So I have it. I usually carry it around. I didn't bring it today. And to smell that molecule, first of all, I'd like to ask you, what do you predict it would smell like? I'll tell you. I won't trick you. I don't have it to give you, but it has a very identifiable smell.
Okay.
And I've asked this question of hundreds of people, and then I've given the thing. And do you want to predict what is the true scent of a woman?
The true scent of a woman?
That's what it is. It's the female egg. It's a human egg. There cannot be more female than that.
You're right. It can't. Graceful.
Exactly. It is actually that. It's attractive, and it's exactly the same chemical as lily of the valley. It's a flower.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the human egg smells of. It's a flower.
I have that in my garden. I'm going to have to go.
When you give someone flowers, you understand, when you give someone flowers, you're giving them the genitals of another organism. That's how flowers.
I will never think about that the same way ever again.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
the same with fruit. If you eat an apple, that's the genitals of the organism. That's how it propagates.
And on that note, I'm going to wrap us. Thank you so much. What are your parting words for our listeners today? We've covered a lot. We've covered fear and curiosity, calm power, creating reality, consciousness, lots of other things here. What are your parting words? What's a lasting gift you would leave with our listeners today?
I think it's about time.
Okay.
I have a watch that I've written on it. It's not this one. The phrase that says, the time is now, it's always now. I know everybody says this all the time, but the future is in your imagination, and your past is in your memory, and your memory is malleable. The only time you have ever been in, is now. So it's always now. So because you can access your past and change it, you can access and change your future, but you can only experience what's happening right now. So that, I think, is a liberating thing to remember. The time is always now. Now is when it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about the future if it's agitating you.
Yeah.
If it's helping you, great. If it's agitating you, you're here now. That's the
it.
only thing that matters.
It is. And, I think we've heard it before that anxiety lives in the future and depression lives in the past. And so you only have the present moment. And I love hearing it in different ways and from different people, because it's always a great reminder. So thank you.
Thank you, Anusia.
Thank you. So you heard it here. The time is now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.